Emily's not here today. You don't know Emily, but you would hate her.
I like her already.
Kate Bowler. It is Bowler.
Yeah, you got it.
I was just like,
this is the friendship, not Bowler.
The mom brain of like, sometimes I, in the moment, will forget very close people to me, like their names when I'm introducing them to people. And I was just like, I know it's Bowler. There's no reason for it to be Bowler. And we are friends. And I'm just coming clean. Kate Bowler is my friend. And we met at the Aspen Ideas Festival, where she led like a Q&A with me about mental health, a subject I'm only abstractly qualified to talk about.
You were so good.
You were so good. And we were so funny together that we were actually asked if we do birthday parties by a very out of touch elderly woman.
Who was willing to pay more than I felt comfortable with for what I was going to be able to provide.
And considering we did that event for free in Aspen, I was like, we won't be able to deliver. But that's very cute that you thought this was like a planned act. Nope, we're both just that funny. And she has pedigree. This is not just like I had my friend on. I think you think this was cool. She is an associate professor of Christian history at Duke Divinity School. I know. You're like, but Eliza, you're Jewish. I'm like, but I contain multitudes. Furthermore, and so you're a doctor. You have a PhD.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Not the real kind. The kind where you just offer unsolicited commentary on movies mostly.
Have you ever, like on a plane, they've been like, is anyone a doctor? And you're like, well, define. You need to know the history. Furthermore, she is the author of 4 New York Times bestselling books. We have her most recent one, Have a Beautiful, Terrible Day, Daily Meditations for the Ups and Downs and In-Betweens. And of course, you guys have probably, I feel like my audience for this podcast is your kind of audience. You have Everything Happens for a Reason, No Cure for Being Human, Good Enough. And
I'm just in favor of like a wild mediocrity. That's what I'm going for.
Just in general?
If you feel like nothing is probably if you're never going to live your best life now and you want to talk about it with somebody else and then there's someone specifically that you hate that you think about that is living their best life, then I love you.
Then these are the books for you.
Exactly.
But I feel like under that, you're an incredibly intelligent, the note behind the note is you're like, live your best, like feel shitty, but just know you're doing great. Like it's not doom and gloom. These are very uplifting, steeped in Christianity, but for the masses.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll do my best to use my most inspirational voice during our time together.
I love it. You do have a calming presence. I was saying my daughter said hi to you and she doesn't say hi to anyone that she doesn't know. And she was like, hi. And I was like, she's godly.
Well,
you are godly.
Your child is mannered. Your baby is incredibly well mannered, just stayed entirely inert.
Yeah.
Which is probably the most polite position
just
you can have.
Saying nothing.
Like submissively kind.
Well, he's just very tired because he lived with me for 9 months. You also have several other books like The Preacher's Wife and Blessed, A History of the American Prosperity Gospel, which I think when we had dinner, we talked about all the preachers' wives, like all the famous televangelist wives and how they really are the backbone.
They are. They are. Soft power is real power.
Soft power.
Yeah.
Is that the man behind the woman? Is that soft power?
Yeah. It's influence, not institutional authority. So everywhere you look, you think the person that's running the business officially is in charge, but it's typically like, it's our market too.
Do I call my next comedy special Soft Power?
I would die 1,000 deaths of happiness. If you did.
See, there it is again. You're like, it's a little dark, but it's really uplifting. Because in the end, I'm happy. My husband says I should call it Afterbirth. And I was like, it's going to repulse anyone who gets the reference.
Gross.
But
I love
that. She's also from Winnipeg, as most of our listeners are. Mostly Canadian nurses. You also send great gifts in the mail. And you have the intelligence and warmth of what I would think I would like in, say, a pastor if I were a Christian person.
That's nice.
Yeah.
if you want a medium inappropriate.
I think that's the relatability.
Yeah, sure.
Because it makes you're not holier than thou, and you're just like, look, you're going to get cancer. We all do. She's had cancer.
We all do.
Plastic.
No, that's so true.
Like,
this is like what I say to people in the nice way. I'm like, our bodies make mistakes.
Yeah,
they just make mistakes.
Even God makes mistakes. I shouldn't have had this. I feel that way about like me not getting into the colleges I liked. I'm like, the Lord made a mistake. We fixed it. And your podcast is called Everything Happens. It's interviews with people, famous people, regular people, acclaimed people about hard times and what they got out of it. I think you guys would love it. And it's available where podcast. Who's still asking, like, where can I get it?
There is yeah. Well, it's people who primarily use email for communication.
Right. So older people in general, people who, right. So I asked Emily, I was like, can you cull some good questions, some juicy questions? And I went through these questions just to make sure everything was appropriate for you. This is a very juicy podcast. I'm really excited about these questions.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes we pull questions and I'm like, come, just dump him next. Like, what are you guys doing? All of these are good. And the first one is actually specifically for you.
Oh, hey.
Yeah. I have a question for Dr. Bowler.
You're like, I met you in 1992. You dismissed me in line at the Walmart.
Hello, pod crew, cats, pups, and sweet toddler and new tiniest baby. My question. I live in North Carolina. My 11-year-old daughter was invited to a Baptist vacation Bible school, one where they said man and dinosaurs walked on the earth together. This completely, I was so nervous you were going to be like, right, correct.
Yeah, I mean, 6,000 years ago, God buried them together.
This completely confused my child, and when she asked questions, she got some bullying from other kids. She now has such a crisis of faith and doesn't know if she even believes in God anymore. How do I help her? We have sat down with our priest. We're Catholic in a very open and accepting church. I just wonder if there's something I can do, a book or some way to explain what that church believes, how they got there, and why does not make her relationship with God any different. That you can believe in science and God. Dr. Bowler?
Oh, hey. Well, I guess, I mean, it sounds like what a great mom just to say, we're gonna also sat down with our priest means you're like, hey, all the information you want to know about God and the world is available to you, smart kid. Mm-hmm. Like your questions are not, I think that's one of the difficult things about those sometimes intense spiritual environments like summer camp or whatever is. There starts to be a group think around what questions are okay. And then you start to wonder if maybe if you ask a different kind of question. Yeah. I had that experience at my, I sat down this 6'5" gentle giant named Merv, who was my summer camp director when I was 14. I was like, hi, we're going to have to go over gender together.
This is ahead of my time. But
this Merv, poor man was like,
Yeah.
But what I learned from that experience was, one, it's pretty difficult to change other people's minds. But when it comes to the kind of person you want to make your kid, that their curiosity is probably the most important thing about them, not just intellectually, but spiritually. Science and religion have joyfully coexisted since, to be honest, since evolution was first floated, it was predominantly accepted as a Christian position. Mm-hmm. It was only in the 1920s that people started using evolution primarily as a culture war issue.
Oh my God, that's fascinating.
So it got introduced kind of as a wedge issue. So unfortunately, people kind of inherit this obstacle course of what they feel like they have to accept in order to be a good Christian. But in truth, we've had a much wider range of acceptable positions until we started being basically culture warriors. So I would just say that it's an unfortunate glitch in the system, but that the broader Christian tradition has so much in it that has made a joyful complementary piece with evolution that it shouldn't. And the more she reads, the happier she'll be about it.
Oh, I like that. So what do you tell her? Do your own research.
I know. Well, I could only think of unbelievably intense history books about it, but I would probably just say that anytime someone says the war, that science is in opposition to religion, that view is only about 100 years old. And is
that an idea that came out of Europe or came out of America?
Well, I mean, the ideas were there's much more sort of transatlantic kind of idea exchange kind of the whole time. But I would say that American culture wars have really calcified around this stuff. So it's kind of very, very American to be there's 5 things you need to know. Jesus buried the dinosaur bones. But unfortunately it's become I remember someone in my family suddenly became a creationist, the earth was made 6,000 years ago because they read an American hunting magazine. I was like, no, we're Canadian. We don't have to do this.
Don't subscribe to that magazine. We don't have to do this.
This is just American culture wars. We don't have to do this.
We don't have to do this. I like the rewarding the curiosity. That's a very special thing.
I always like telling my kid, all your questions are the good ones. And and frankly, the more spiritual are, if you become dumber, we have a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I was so glad. I'm I don't have the answer to that. That seems hard. So we'll just leave it with you.
I also wish I had more accessible history books in my brain. I'm sorry.
Nobody wants to hear that. I mean, just the fact that the second you said in the 1920s, I was like, and that's her answer is the good one. She cited a date and the source and we're good. A hunting magazine. I'm 41, male, and I live in Idaho. I work in a relatively small office with about 20 people. There are only 4 men working in the office. My dilemma. One of the other guys in the office refuses to flush the toilet after he is done, regardless if he's taking a pee or dropping a D.
No.
When I confronted him about it, good for you.
Yeah.
He said it's a waste of water to flush the toilet and that you can get at least one more use, quote unquote, out of the toilet water before flushing it. I'm all for saving our Earth's resources and being ecologically responsible, but I draw the line on this. What would you say to somebody like this or who really is practicing what they preach, but it's gross as fuck? Thank you. And you can use my first name. It's Tim. Because Tim's hoping his coworker will hear this.
Oh my gosh, that's so upsetting. Yeah, I have had experiences with groups that have a strong water conservationist policy. It never went that far.
Yeah, you work at like Home Depot. Like, there's no reason this guy doesn't have to be Captain Planet.
Yeah, well, and it's primarily about the environment. It's not about the cost. Because you could pay him 25 cents every time he flushes the toilet.
I don't think he's the owner of the business.
No, it doesn't sound, but yeah, it doesn't.
I think he's just like, I'm trying to save the planet. Only because I have some experience with clogged toilets. When you leave toilet paper, like when you don't flush, the toilet paper breaks down and it can actually clog the pipes. It's actually bad for your toilet, which is weird. You'd think like, oh, if the toilet paper sort of disintegrates. No. So then it will end up costing time and resources and your toilet maybe will start to run. Like it will cause problems. Yeah. So you're going to be hurting someone or something.
On top of the fact that this is like really hurting their relationship and a sense of decency.
Sense of decency. Because it's also like, what's this power trip? Like, he's like, look at my shit. Look at it, Tim.
It's very primal over there.
Yeah. Like, why not just shit on someone's desk and just conserve water altogether? So he's like, what do I say? I'm like, yeah, that's so uncomfortable.
Other than you're the grossest person I'm aware of. But I mean, I've had these arguments about pee before with family members where I'm like, this is actually not good for either of us, for me to feel stressed every time I enter a bathroom. Yeah. I feel like I'm entering into a time of discovery and that what I'm going to learn about you, I don't want to learn. I can't unlearn.
That's true. I can't unlearn what you had for lunch.
You've given me too much information about who you are and now we can't level the playing field again.
Tim, lucky for you, you're a man, so people will take you seriously and you're not going to get called a bitch for not wanting to look at someone's turds. I say you march right up to him when he's sitting in his F-150, having a snack break, vaping, and you're just like, Roy, you got to flush your shit. It's illegal.
Yeah.
You're breaking, and also,
that's good. That's a good argument.
Also, if you want to get petty with him, you could start citing all the things that he does that are not environmentally sound. Because I guarantee you this guy does not have it all buttoned up.
Also, that really does sound like bullying. You could say that you're going to report him to HR.
You're like, what is he, a gorilla? Just leaving your droppings? Yeah. Relatively small office. You have a boss you can talk to. I mean, never underestimate the power of public shaming.
You could just constantly write signs that was like, I know it was you.
Yeah. In shit on the hood of his car. And just be like, what? No water was wasted here. And I walked to work to get some of the anxiety. I don't know.
It's also a workplace environment that I feel sad for Tim. I feel like he is trying his best to just get through the day.
It's Idaho, so probably not a ton of job options.
I love it. There's a lot of, oh my gosh, poor Idaho. I always ask nonstop potato related questions every time I meet someone from Idaho.
Have you been to Idaho?
I haven't.
It's gorgeous. And I had the privilege of playing Boise for the first time. And it's all me and Hunter, who's my opener, talk about is how can we get back to Idaho? Aww. Those dates are coming up. It's like secretly one of the fastest growing cities in America. Huh. And they don't want you to know that because it's a little pride from my cold dead hands. Yeah. But aside from that, it's gorgeous.
Well, Tim, help's coming. Better people are going to move to your general area.
Yeah. And they're going to do worse things because they'll be coming from grosser cities. Okay. I almost didn't read this one because I was like, it's almost a brain teaser. Mm-hmm. So you have to track it. Okay. You're like, I have a PhD. I can do
it. Seriously, I'm already doubtful.
It's just, okay, here we go. My 30 sister Kyla's. Okay. So the sister's named Kyla. Uh-huh. Maybe this person's 30. Okay. So these ages don't matter. These people are 28 and 30-ish. Okay.
Great. Late 20s. Love it.
There we go. My sister Kyla's childhood best friend, Dan, 28, and new girlfriend of about a year, Julia, 28, set unreasonable and hurtful boundaries. It all stemmed from a concert a group of us were at a few months ago where it came to light that Dan, so this is my sister Kyla's childhood best friend, Dan. So this is your sister's best friend. Okay. It all came to light that Dan and I had a drunken one-night stand close to 10 years ago. Julia, who's the girlfriend, didn't know this. And they basically went up, and Julia basically went off on her own the rest of the concert. We don't see each other very much, but do have the same circle of friends. And Dan and Julia are always getting invited to game nights, brunches, and parties, as Kyla and I host a few throughout the year. Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Don't I feel like a fool when Kyla, your sister, comes home after guilting Dan into getting a coffee after months of blown off plans to explain the reason we haven't seen them is because Julia, the girlfriend, hates me and decided to never be in a setting where I am, and told Dan, her boyfriend, she doesn't want him around me either. The big issue. Dan and I are in my sister Kyla's wedding party in a few months. And now she's super stressed about any drama that might arise, since it will involve Dan being in the same space as me basically all day. I tried to talk to Julia to apologize for how I'd made her feel uncomfortable, and it was never my intention, but she told Dan that she wouldn't even be in the same room as me. So her mind is made up. Kyla, might be Kayla, am I right? Is now uninviting Julia. Oh my God. Kyla, the sister, is now uninviting Julia from the wedding.
Oh boy.
And she's considering replacing Dan, her childhood best friend. By the way, I'm the only one that needs these like tiny reminders in the wedding party, and just inviting him alone as a guest, but doesn't want to regret not having them as they've been best friends since kindergarten. A few extra notes. Now, normally I'm like, it's too much context, but I do think we need to hear this. Julia, the girlfriend, made a social media post about having a hard time making girlfriends when she moved with Dan. And when I saw it, despite it being cringy as hell, I told my girlfriend group that we should plan a night out with her and get to know her better. That never happened because I found out the girls just want to steal my boyfriend post was about me. Okay. Even though I have never tried. I was in a happy relationship for almost the entire time I knew her. She said I'm a lesser version of her and need therapy because her therapy, quote unquote, fixed her issues. I spoke with the other friends in the group to see if I was out of line or something that would justify such a strong reaction. And they expressed that I've always been a good friend and they do not like her, as she is isolating Dan from them as well. Kayla also asked Dan how he would feel if the tables were flipped, and her fiance hated Dan's brother. Now I'm lost. He just said, I don't know, and got teary about it. That is Dan's first real adult relationship. So to him, he's head over heels blindly in love with her. This is also bringing up a lot of feelings from when I was young and I got bullied and excluded by the girls in my middle school. So this is a really low feeling considering I thought she and I would be friends when they started dating because we have a lot of the same interests. I don't know what advice I'm looking for. Kyla misses her best friend and the group is basically being forced to choose if they want to see me or them at gatherings because Dan and Julia won't come. You have to learn how to use commas. Julia won't come if I'm there, which makes everyone uncomfortable. And I want Kyla to not be so stressed about her wedding party. Is there even any way to save their friendship?
Oh boy. Yeah. And that sounds like that was a lot of emotional fact finding to figure out how much Julia hated her, which is also really painful.
Yeah.
Sounds like she did a lot of chasing. Like, I don't hear any bit of that where Dan was like, hey,
thank you.
Just checking. Just wondering about our relationship. It's like, doesn't really sound like Dan's really the only person I think with a responsibility to try.
Thank you. Because I was like, I'm not going to jump in. We'll let Kate go. And then I'll swoop in with my hot take. And you stole my thunder. You stole my heat. Because that's the take. That's exactly what it is.
Because like, it does. I'm a very sensitive person. I always feel so sad if there's some kind of thing between me and somebody else. But like, it sounds like there's been already so much energy spent on that just mostly was wounding for probably a reason that will go away in the end, which is that somebody like that, it's just very hard to keep around in the long term with
that girlfriend.
Yep.
The girlfriend is not going to be around.
No.
This is what I tell a lot of my listeners. I'm like, in 3 years, this person won't be. He will get tired of how clingy she is.
Yeah.
He's the problem.
Yeah. Or he'll become a person that you just, which he kind of is being right now, is someone you don't even really want.
Also, first of all, he is not being a man in this situation. It's okay to cherish your girlfriend. Especially, if you have like a wife, like obviously you pick her over everyone else, but to not stand up for yourself or anything, or even rationally, the fact that you never told your girlfriend, by the way, this girl we're spending a lot of time with is someone I slept with.
Yeah.
That's disrespectful to the girlfriend who already is insecure.
Yeah.
And based on the way this sounds, even though I think I butchered it as I was reading it, moved to a city to be with him. So she's already vulnerable. She already, and probably does have trouble making friends with girls. I find that girls that say that kind of don't, like, you're kind of the problem. Like here, this girl's like, I wanted to invite her out, but she feels betrayed. And that's Dan's fault.
That's good.
Cards on the table. Just, we slept together 10 years ago. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Because you're making a jackass out of her. Now she feels like you kept that from her.
And now everybody feels stupid except Dan.
Dan, who's just like crying, oh, it's my girlfriend. It's his fault.
And his relationship with his childhood best friend, those are really precious. You know someone your whole life.
Yep.
In some very well-documented ages, at least 28 through 30 years. And like, that's a really long time to know somebody. What I would want from a Dan in my life is like hey, this is so awkward. My girlfriend feels really uncomfortable in this situation. We're going to have to figure out a different way to be friends in the near whatever.
From a mistake that he made.
Yes. As opposed to just running around quietly with other people and not seeing them anymore.
But also, by not divulging that fact, Dan makes it like he has feelings. Because why hide it?
Yeah.
When I met my husband, I'm like, oh, here, like, it's not about like coming clean. It's just like, here's just things that you should know. Or if we're going to think, just know that I went on a date with that guy. It's just a courteous thing to do.
Yeah.
And especially, it'd be one, you don't have to if you're just going to see someone randomly, like who cares, but you're going to be spending all this time together.
Yeah.
He fucked up. And also, what does that say about him that he's willing to tank this relationship, this friendship?
I think that's one of those, he sounds so non-confrontational where people just kind of, it's death by a thousand small losses where they think they're being self-protective. They don't stand up at the right time. And then they just hemorrhage loss after loss. And like now there's not a lot left for anybody, which is so sad. I think she should leave the wedding thing alone. Like the girlfriend can kind of she can take herself out of that situation.
She doesn't need to go to this wedding.
Yeah. But like, it's really stressful to uninvite. How do you uninvite somebody? Dear sir or ma'am. Like, how's that going to go?
Please uncircle chicken or fish. Yeah. So you're saying, I don't know what advice I want. First of all, you should definitely be going to the wedding.
Yeah.
Dan should be invited and give her the option to grow the fuck up and either come or not come because her issue is with Dan, not with you.
Yeah, that's good.
Right?
Yeah, that's right. And friend loss is real loss. And it feels weird because we don't really know how to name the fact that we have a certain kind of grief related to stuff we find hard to describe. So it sounds like she really, like, there's so much love there, but it's just all being sexualized in one way. And now it's a mess.
Yeah. And you feel vulnerable because you're like, I tried to like take this girl out.
Yeah.
And everybody feels really bad. Try doing a come to Jesus because the ball's going to be in her court of like, can you get over it? And can he apologize appropriately to everyone?
Yeah.
Because you didn't do anything wrong.
Or just behave normally. Gosh.
But I also weirdly feel bad for the girlfriend who's just like, oh, did I just walk into like a weird family fuck fest? Like you guys slept together and now we're still friends and you didn't tell me? I'd be annoyed too, even though she sounds awful. She has a right to be annoyed.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Terrible surprise. And she feels dumb.
And if he ends up with this girl, like some men just commit themselves to a life with like lame girls and like you're going to have to let him do that and just like accidentally have kids that you kind of don't want and then just like be unhappy. It's always like these lame guys that are like, I guess it's whatever she wants. And you're like, fine, enjoy your fucking life.
I like how quickly that spiraled.
Oh yeah.
You're like, and then he joins a cult and then he digs a bomb shelter and then no one sees him again.
He runs for Senate. This is a little bit later.
Okay.
How much effort do I need to put? A lot of these are about women against women. How much effort do I need to put into giving my ex-husband's brothers, so your ex-brother-in-law's pregnant girlfriend, or baby gifts? Context. I bought these gifts for my ex-husband's brother's girlfriend before I asked for the divorce from my husband about a month ago. Let's call her A, and my husband's brother J. I set up a time and a place to give A, the girlfriend, the gifts, and she didn't show. I reached out again to try to set up a replacement plan, but never heard back.
Oh boy. I
can't give them to my husband because he's staying on his grandmother's property, which A is not allowed on because she met J through his cousin M, who A was engaged. This has got to be a joke. Are you spelling out something? Are you spelling out a message? Like, help me. Cousin who N was engaged at the time has been sleeping with J. Okay, so it's a super big, trashy mix-up, trashy pretzel knot. Basically, you can't give him to the ex-husband. So my ex-husband wouldn't be able to give her the gifts either because he doesn't have a car and she can't go to him.
No.
There's Uber probably in rural Missouri. No.
Yeah.
How many more times should I reach out to her before I just give the gifts to someone else with a baby?
No. No, don't. What,
Zero.
that's zero.
We're done.
It's so weird though. This impulse to be the person who tries.
Mm.
And then way after there's any,
Nobody cares.
It's just, it's like now you went to the effort and now it's just loss after loss. So no, you just have to tell yourself you're the kind of person who bought a gift for somebody's sister, regardless of how important that relationship was. And now either have a different baby and use that present yourself. Or
have
give it
another
away.
baby is the takeaway.
Yeah, that's right.
By any means.
Yeah. And a different baby, like that I specified that each baby has to be
has their own gifts.
Separate.
Yeah, I guess you raised an interesting issue. Like, what is it in you, for better or for worse, that feels, is this a way to keep the ex-husband close? Is this a way to look good? Are you just a good person and you just want to give this little baby a present?
I feel like we're all just dying of being good people. Just running around, signing up for errands. And then I like to sometimes pinpoint the or source idea of when I thought I was being nice. And then like, wow, that got away from me. And then I'm 10 errands in to an original, hey, I should do this. And I'm like, why? Who? And who am I? Can I still be myself if I just stop doing this work?
You're doing errands for people?
Oh, I find it's very, if you give a mouse a cookie, it just gets out of hand.
Oh, see, I'm that mouse. You're the one giving the cookies. You actually even brought me peanut butter brittle.
No, that's different. I have an overwhelming love of sarcasm and gift giving.
Okay.
I find it's more like, I wore a shirt. The shirt is I should get it tailored. Where's the tailor? Is the tailor across town? It's only available 2 to 4. And then I never circle around to being like, did I like that shirt enough
in the first place?
Enough to section off a day?
Yeah. Because
to run these vital errands that I've now. So really I find errands just fall downhill and then collect. They're just a huge snowball by the end.
Okay.
And this, especially when it's related to a story you have about yourself, there's no way to limit yourself from doing it.
Say that again?
Well, she wants to be a good person, especially when it's related to a primary story we have about yourselves. I'm the kind of person who, then it's really hard to stop yourself.
Or are you trying to prove yourself that you're not that kind of person? So you're like, I will get a gift because I'm not a piece of shit.
That is a very good argument.
I'm just positing it, but also.
Then it proves I don't hate my ex-husband.
Why can't he give the gift? First of all, men can't be trusted with baby gifts. And it'll get stuck in the trunk of his non-existent car. Something's up. I'm just telling you so you can hear me. Something's up with you and this ex-husband, I think.
That's good.
You want to look good. You're getting a divorce. You want to look like a good person.
Your high roading has now led to this baby gift debacle.
If that is it, just cut out these people. Just in that story that turned out to be an acronym with A and J and M. Alphabet soup story? No. But I am the mouse. And if you give a mouse a cookie, if you invite me over, I'll be like, can I look in your medicine cabinet? Can I have a sweater? Do you need snacks? Can I have some milk? Okay, which is not the takeaway from that book. I have a close friend who is, I feel like you are uniquely positioned to this, having nothing to do with the actual details, but more the compassion.
I hope there's how many sexy love triangles are we going to get to in the middle?
This one's not sexy at all. This one's about filth.
All right.
I have a close friend who started renting out a room in her home as she lives in a popular tourist destination. I stayed with her for 4 days while in town for work, and there were a few pros, like being in a close friend's home, which makes things more comfortable. It's cheaper. It's in a neighborhood I love. However, there's one issue that makes all the pros not worth it. The house is filthy. Years of grime on all surfaces, items shoved into every surface imaginable, which means things falling all around the house constantly. Dried cat pee on the floors. Dried cat poop in the pay-to-rent guest room. It's worse than turds in the toilet. Cat hair on literally any surface you may wish to sit on. I'm not a clean snob. I know a lot of people live for years in grimy environments due to mental health reasons or just not knowing how to clean. But the cat pee and poop really make it unbearable. What's worse is she bragged to me about a spring deep clean before my arrival. She's hoping to make income from this room, and I struggle to see that happening. I was supposed to stay with her next month, but have already texted her that it's no longer in my plan. How would you, Kate, kindly communicate? She didn't say Kate, but I don't want to answer this. How would you kindly communicate to someone the issue, if at all? Would you say something or let guests not returning ultimately clue her in? I want to be a good friend and let her know it's a problem, but also, how exactly do you tell someone their home is filthy?
Oh, man. And they're good friends, enough that she actually wants to stay with her.
Yeah, they're good friends.
And she really doesn't know?
I think sometimes you go nose blind.
Yeah.
My house is very clean, as you've seen, covered in dog hair.
What?
It's everywhere.
No.
Yeah, her thick white superior Chinese dog hair.
She's really soft.
It's because
You're
it's
just
a new
wearing
coat.
you're just wearing a sweater.
Yeah.
It's a new coat every hour.
Just self-generating. And I don't realize how much, I mean, it's not disgusting, but like it's in my bed. And like I don't really care or notice it, but I'm sure someone who was like allergic to dogs would.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like with cat owners sometimes you don't realize it.
I remember one time this very nice librarian was like, hey, because I was very sick at the time with cancer. And she's like, I do this like healing therapy thing. It's just very chill. It's like a couple blocks from my house. It'll be so nice. And I was like, okay. For some reason, I was in a position where I just said yes to everything, and she wanted to help me.
What if that was the thing?
And
that's what did it. That cured it.
That's right. I went over to her house and I was like, oh no, you're the grossest person that I know who I've been working with this many years.
Yeah.
But it like to the naked eye, it seemed like it was okay. But just 2 minutes in, it was the cat smell everywhere in every surface, like even in the hardwoods.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, it's okay. I'll just leave with my cancer. That's all right.
I'd rather keep the cancer.
You can keep your energy healing. So she would not have known. So I'm picturing this lovely, sweet person and thinking about this question. You're right. Some people genuinely don't know. I am the kind of person who would, in a lightly joking way.
Oh, you would make a joke?
I would test it. I'd be like,
what?
I would make
I'm like dying to hear.
It's so great to do this in front of a professional comedian too.
I'm not like, let's hear it. You think you're so funny. I'm like, I don't know. I wouldn't make a joke. So I'm like dying to hear.
I don't know. I think I might just be like, oh wow, nothing's true about cat ladies, huh? I would reach for it a little bit. I would.
Yeah.
Only because I would want to see if they think it's at all like in the atmosphere of like, do you think this is a factor? I would be so tempted to tell a friend. Unless you have a history where they just don't accept confrontation. Maybe this is just about a history of their confrontation.
Yeah. Some friends, I don't know. There are definitely people in my life where I'm like, this person cannot take feedback. Like you cannot. So it doesn't affect me whether they take the advice or not. And so I just say nothing.
What if it was like, you could just make it about allergies? Like not about gross.
Mm-hmm.
Like not be like, hey friend, I've cared about you a long time, but it turns out that you're gross and it's demonstrable. And it's now a barrier to public safety. So instead of going that route, you could be like, I find that late in life, developing allergies. Is there blah, blah, blah?
Well, she already isn't going to her house. So it's weird to call back and be like, also, I have allergies. So double not coming. I also feel like when people have cat allergies and you have a cat, we tend to get annoyed at people. Like there is that thing like when you go out to eat and someone's like, I have a shellfish allergy. You're like, ugh. Like when you don't have the thing, whether it's some gluten or whatever, we're so overrun by people with their excuses in our society that when someone genuinely has it, we have like no space for them.
No, that's so true.
Like, oh, you're not allergy.
I'm sorry, you're going to go into shock.
Yeah.
I knew that my best friend was my best friend because she in her move, she had a choice of whether to bring her cat or let the cat stay with her parents. She didn't bring the cat because I'm allergic.
Oh, wow.
That was like, oh, I guess we're dying together.
Yeah.
I guess we're going to do interlaced fingers and a kidney share if my organs weren't compromised.
Who wants it?
I was more moved by that.
Wow.
Than anything
Were you
else.
living together?
No. I'm just over at our house like every 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
And then she just knew. She knew.
A cat. I mean, okay, look, I don't want to lose half my followers here. I think it depends on how close you are as a friend. And I also think deep down, are you telling her this because you really want her to make money on this and you really root for her? Or is there a part of you that's like, so fucking gross and it's going to feel good to make you feel like a little bit bad about this? So where is it truthfully coming from? Dig deep. Make sure it's not holier than thou. Because I can't tell you, mine wouldn't be like, by the way, I need you to admit you're gross. Dig deep. It will affect you not at all. Because you're never staying there again unless you do go there often. And she will learn that when people start leaving shitty reviews.
Yeah. So it's just whether the confrontation is with you or with a stranger.
Yeah. And I think going back to what you said about people who receive feedback, if you have no reason to think she won't, there's no reason for her to be mad at you if you're like, I have to tell you, I know you did a deep clean. I just think there are some other things like as your friend, because if she really thought about it, you stand to gain nothing from telling her this. Like you're not trying to make her feel bad.
Yeah.
Where are you? Where are you? So it's really just, will it cost you more? Like, is it worth it?
Yeah. I guess I do like the idea though, like either way, if you're coming at it in a place of love where it's either going to be from you if she can hear it, or it'll be from a stranger and she'll hear it anyway. And then you just have to be the person who's like going to put down the shiv and be like, yeah, it's so weird that you got that information.
So weird. But then she's going to be like, is that true? Why didn't you say anything?
Yeah, I'd be like, it's weird, but I actually have all these diary entries and I wrote into a podcast.
Just listen to this podcast. I think you telling her this, it's a litmus test of your relationship basically to see how she receives the information. So really, she's auditioning to be your friend.
I like it. I do think that having a track record of being able to tell someone something hard is probably the greatest, like, refining of a friendship. If you can hear uncomfortable things from each other, you're just like adding years to your collective life.
There are versions where like, I definitely have friends where it's like, you cannot give that like they become like weirdly violent. So I just don't. And I'm like, you can fucking hang yourself, but we'll still be friends because you've made it really uncomfortable for me to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Or you told a version of something before.
Yeah.
But you know deep down if she can hear it.
Yeah. So just decide.
Yeah.
Cat pee never comes out.
Oh my gosh. Why?
It's something about witches and poison. It's all the trapped souls of children in the urine. Yeah. What's worse, not flushing your poop or leaving your pee as a cat everywhere? Okay, so let me think about that.
I do feel like the poop was super aggressive.
Just agree to use.
It's poor Tim. I just want something nice to happen for Tim.
He lives in Idaho. He's fine.
Yeah. Well, now I've learned it's the place I'm going to go.
You got to go.
Just not to that one. If you could just write us back with the location.
We should need to know where you are. My freshly 18-year-old. Okay.
People love ages on this podcast.
This is from years of me berating them that they are not specific with their questions and I don't get enough context.
And now it's too much. You have like the nicest, most rule-abiding listeners.
Because they're Canadian. They're Canadian and they're Australian and they're from places like Minnesota. Yeah. And it's just nice, for the most part, just nice people who have shitty friends in their weddings. And a lot of nurses who tend to be helpers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aww.
My freshly 18-year-old, who is a senior in high school and who will be going away to college this summer, recently told me she lost her virginity. The nature of this seemed to be casual, and I'm disappointed because we've had so many conversations about self-worth and values. I'm struggling on how to help guide her more as she prepares to leave for school soon. How do I balance challenging her to think more about her values while still showing support, although I'm frustrated with this recent choice to engage in casual sex? Thank you so much in advance for creating the space for parents.
Aw, man. And I can't tell what the values are. Like, was there a value system in the home that kind of maybe naturally broke that rule? Or like, was there a rule in the first place?
I don't know. I think maybe in the way the daughter described it, she just made it sound super casual, which could have been her like not wanting to get into it with you.
Yeah.
Like sometimes maybe the guy like wasn't into her. So she's like, oh, it was no big deal, but it did break her heart. Or maybe it just was like shitty sex and it like lasted for like 15 seconds, which is a while. And it just didn't mean as much as you would have hoped it would have meant. It's hard to tell.
Yeah. It's so funny too. There's so many people I know who have these like a really lovely sense of self-worth and all these kinds of things that you would hope for like an adult woman. And when they describe their first sexual encounter, they're just like, eh. And it was like just full shrug. Like I would have thought it'd be like, you're expressing who you are with your body. And then I get very like Cameron Diaz, it's a promise you made with your body. Do you remember that movie? She's screaming at Tom Cruise and she's like, we had sex. It was a promise we made to each other with our
Vanilla
bodies.
Sky? What are
It's Vanilla Sky.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I just reached into a weird Cameron Diaz place in my mind.
I reached into, I don't know where that, I didn't even see it. Okay.
So you're just hoping that.
Is it though? I mean, for a woman, sex is there's oxytocin. You are physically taking a man into you if you're having heterosexual sex. But I also, when you're younger, you don't know what you want. Do I want the sex that they tell me I should have in movies? Do I want this? Do I like him? Do I want him to like me? Is it whatever? It's so confusing. I would think the question is like, were you hurt? Did you want to do it?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's okay to want to do something and it just wasn't that good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also okay to be like, yeah, oh well. And I get that it was the first time, but I think it's more about like, did she feel not so much empowered, but okay about the choice? Because I think we have this weird, you don't want your daughter to just sleep with people because it does chip away at you if you're just fucking people all day long. But there is something to sleeping with people, rejecting people, seeing what you like, always making sure that when you're having sex, it's because you want it. And I think that's a note that's easier given than heard. Because we've all had sex as young girls. We were like, I didn't really want to, and it was not good, or I did, So I don't know what else it was said, but I think the main thing is like, hopefully she didn't feel bad about it.
I guess I'm thinking about the values because for, most either ethical or religious traditions, there's a set of hopes for what sex is going to be and when it's going to be and what it will mean. And so if you felt like your daughter wasn't living in accordance with her own values, then it does feel like it's worth a conversation about like what do you believe and what are you hoping for? Like where do you want this to go? I just find it kind of wild though that now some of the most sort of people who find rich meaning in their life according to their own religious value system are very shruggy about some of their earlier choices. Like it just didn't end up meaning what they thought it would.
Because you can't know.
Yeah. I do think, because sometimes these things are learned experientially and sometimes it's just like a value congruity. So just maybe just checking in on is this part of you becoming who you want to be, or was this just an experiment and you're not really sure what it means right now?
Right. Also, I think the older we are when we talk about these things, I don't want to go into the third guy I had sex with. Okay, whatever. I just had 2 kids. I don't fucking care. I think, but I think also as a mom, that's your little angel. That's your baby and you want it. It's never great. The first time, it's fine or it's cool, but it's never oceans were crashing and I'm in love. You wanted her to have special things because she's your baby and you want it to be special for her. And just looking back at my own life and all tiny mistakes I've made, just gear up for tons of disappointments out of your daughter. But I understand how you're feeling because I'm looking at my little girl and I'm just I just want everything to be perfect for you forever.
And everyone I grew up with didn't have sex until I swear to God, they're mid-20s. So I never have anything to say. I'm always
That's fair too.
I'm really? Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Mid-20s is fine, by the way. It's only in movies is it you didn't lose your virginity on prom night. Mid-20s is fine. There's not a lot going on. You're fine. It's an old maid at 25. But recent choice to engage in casual sex. Well, it's always going to be casual because you're not married at 18.
Sounds like she just felt like it was with a person that wasn't meaningful in her life at all and won't be meaningful.
Right.
And whether that makes the sex meaningless. So I think it's about figuring out what the meaning was.
That's
and if there isn't, that's okay. But there should be eventually.
You got to get something out of it. Or at least did you learn something about yourself? Or you just want to make sure she's not going to repeat this over and over, seeking some meaning that isn't attached to it.
Yeah, that's good.
No, what you said was good. Do
you want me to repeat Vanilla Sky again? Because I feel like I tanked for a bit and I was working hard to recover.
I don't fancy ourselves a movie podcast, but it was pretty impressive. Sorry you missed this episode, Emily.
I just will never forget Cameron Diaz screaming about her body promises.
I jokingly said Vanilla Sky because I was like, there's no way. And I thought you got and then you're right.
That was it.
I was like, the holiday? Hey, Pod Squad. Okay. Last year, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. He has undergone surgery, immunotherapy, multiple rounds of radiation, and has just started a new chemo medication to try and stay ahead of it. He travels out of state for his treatments because we want him to receive the best care possible. I'm a high school social studies teacher, and my mother is a retired teacher. She keeps our 8-month baby for me so we don't have to pay for childcare.
Wow.
Due to my dad's illness, I've had to take days to stay home with the baby while she travels with my dad for his treatments. This is fine because I saved my sick leave and PTO time for this purpose. But knowing that this is my last child and with the unknown of my dad's illness, I've decided not to return to teaching school next year. It's so sad that you have to save up days. That we don't live in a place where it's time you need. Also, we'll pay you a fair wage. I want to take this time to be with my baby and be available if my parents need me. My husband and I ran the numbers and our finances are stable enough for me to be able to at least stay home for a year. Now I know myself and my personality. As much as I love my family and my kids, staying home full time had never appealed to me until now. Here's my question. Should I take this time to solely focus on my baby and my dad, or should I try to find a remote job or position since I won't be returning to teach? Even though financially we can support ourselves for me to stay home, I have always worked and had my own money. I think part of my reasoning for writing in is being solely dependent upon my husband financially and not contributing anything just makes me worry. Any and all advice is appreciated, especially recommendations on remote part-time jobs if I decided that needs to be done. Honestly, I give myself 6 months before I'm itching to return to the workforce. Sincerely, Anna.
Yeah. Yeah. Aw. And what a beautiful, difficult choice.
Yeah.
That's
selfless.
I mean, and it's so hard to make a big break with routine, a big turn up the volume on being scared about money. I mean, it's people always say like, it's so meaningful the time I spent with my but they're always thinking about like the 2 weeks in which they had some kind of like high.
Yeah.
They're never thinking about the long, slow, hard work of caregiving. So the fact that she's like building a world around a hard choice is so much more commendable than like the kind of emotional tourism that sometimes we expect.
Ooh, emotional tourism. What is that?
Well, like people want to dip in and then have the sort of be able to condense the meaning. And most people's illnesses and caregiving just goes on so much longer than we expect. And so,
this finite year, like a year to a humans, you're like a year, but cancer doesn't know a year.
Yeah.
Children don't know a year. So finite.
Yeah. And maybe that's like the best little way into it is because there's a question mark around cancer timelines always because of the nature of cancer. And because there's a question mark always around like ambition and itchiness and when you're at home and when you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Then maybe letting like one thing that I did around living with uncertainty with illness is I would make a list of questions that I thought I was going to be especially scared about. In this case, it sounds like it's how independent do I feel? How financially worried am I? How much do I feel like this is about time with my dad? How much do I feel like this is about time with my kid? And then I put it in a calendar for 3 months. Like I put like little check-ins and I decide I'm going to make a choice and then I'm not going to obsess about it until my next appointed worry time.
Compartmentalization.
And then I get back into it and then I open up all the choices again. But letting yourself have more than just like, because teachers do have, you can take somebody's mat leave. There are online things there's more flexibility than the 1 year. There can still be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months.
Well, you're saying shorter than a year because I guess the year was like financially.
For her, yeah. But probably a school year is what I'm guessing.
I just want to say one thing because I don't envy this decision. And I get as a woman who works, you're just like, I need this. Like, I want to go back to it. Please don't underestimate or don't disqualify the fact that you are contributing. Like you said in your question, being solely dependent upon my husband financially and not contributing anything, but you are. These are things you guys would have to pay for. If not for your mother, you would have to be paying for childcare. You are taking care of and raising your child, which we don't value because women do it. But that is expensive and valuable. And you're raising someone to be a good person and you're keeping your husband alive. I don't know if you're cooking, you're keeping the house, like you're keeping everything in order. You're making appointments. Yesterday, my husband was super busy and I was like, I'll do those 3 doctor appointments. And I was like, this must be what housewives feel like. Cause I did 3 things, but like it was a lot. It took time away from what he was doing. I had the time. I'm just saying, please don't fall into that trap of thinking that because you're not physically at a job, what you're doing isn't work and extremely valuable and expensive.
That's good.
Right?
Yeah. That's really true. And also like maybe the intensity, I don't know, baby stuff, illness stuff, ambition, like these are all maybe like volume settings rather than on and off switches. So right now, and you're turning down ambition because you're turning up caregiving on both fronts.
Right.
Let yourself do that for a set amount of time, but then just be okay with the fact that kind of really depending on how the other things go.
Yeah.
You really might feel differently. And all of the versions are good versions. They really are.
I love that. I love the volume setting. And I love what you said, like revisit it later. When you were like, so you said something about 6 months, can I get a part-time? You can always get a job.
Yeah.
You don't have to start now. If I had to tell you one versus the other, I would say you will regret not having taken this time to be with your dad, who I hope recovers, and to be around your kid and they can be with each other. You don't want to look back and be like, but I went to work a lot and I wish I had my dad here. Like, even just for the closure.
And maybe even like, just because sometimes people, I'm thinking with cancer treatment, sometimes the time in which you are able to spend a lot of time with them is not necessarily going to track with how sick or healthy he is. Like sometimes people are very sick, but during that time, they actually just don't need you that much because they're, you find you're having like a flurry of decisions and then a kind of holding pattern. So don't feel like you have to fully track it based on like his health. Like it's going to go up and down. I mean, your experience of whether you're necessary and how much time you have to put in is going to go up and down. And you're allowed to ride that roller coaster without feeling like it just has to be like an all or nothing.
Yeah. Give yourself a little bit of space and grace. I never say the word grace, but like give yourself a break.
Yeah. And change your mind. Like change your mind at least twice and see how it goes.
And I hope you have a husband who it seems very supportive and It's okay. If you wanted something 3 months ago that you don't want now, big deal. Like people change their minds. Hey, everyone. I'm 28 and I'm a female. My sister-in-law is 27 and 23. Plan to